So good morning. I'm going to call the meeting to order. The recording's already begun. It's Thursday. It's January 21st. It's 9:34 a.m. and the meeting is called to order. Have today members of the Board of Health, Melinda Apgar and Sheila Mallet here, as well as our administrator, Samantha Zediker, and number of other guests who will introduce themselves as we move forward in the agenda. So I just want to make sure that everybody has their full name on their Zoom box. The only place that I'm looking is Jody. Jody, if it's possible for you to edit your name so that your first and last name are listed, I'd much appreciate it. And if you can't do that, just unmute yourself and tell us your last name and we will change it for you.
Hi, my name is Jody Briganti. It's Brighenti. And I will try to edit. I'm not sure if I'll be successful, but I'll try to do it.
Okay, I do not have privileges to do that. I guess I have not been made. Samantha, do you want to make me co-host?
I can. I have her name pulled up. Can you just spell it one more time? I'm sorry.
Sure, it's Brighenti.
Joan, it looks like you're talking, but you're on mute. So
Oh, sorry. I just wanted to ask.
I have your full name on the Zoom, so I'm just going to move forward with the meeting.
Okay.
What I just want to make sure everybody recognizes is that in order to, especially since we have a few hearings today, in order to keep things orderly and make sense out of all the issues, I'm going to ask everybody to stay on mute and to not speak until I call on you. The way to be called on would be to raise your hand. You can either do it like this, the way I'm doing it, or if you can find the raised hand icon at the bottom of your Zoom screen, you can raise your hand that way. I'm going to make sure that everybody that's present today is heard. And that we're going to start off with the hearings, the appeals on the tobacco violations for Cumberland Farms. I want to start out by saying that the Lancaster Board of Health is much appreciative of Cumberland Farms as a good business partner in Lancaster with 2 stores. Also very appreciative of Joan Hamlet and her staff and associates who have been tremendous supporters of tobacco control in the town of Lancaster. So we're going to sort all the issues out today. The way I'm going to carry out okay. Yeah, we would get to that, Joan. So let's try to move forward and everything that we need to know about all the people that are here and all the events that have happened will come out sort of little by little. So what we're going to do is we're going to open separate hearings for each violation, for each appeal, for each violation. I'd like everybody to avoid discussion of any extraneous issues or details and to try to stay focused on a specific violation and the specific appeal issues, just so that we can move through things. Everybody's going to have a chance to speak to each violation and each appeal. And the order will be tobacco control, whether that's Joan or Jody or both, which is fine. I will ask them for each violation and each appeal to start off the discussion. Once they have presented the violation, the Board of Health will have an opportunity to ask questions. Then we'll move to Cumberland Farms and we'll give them a chance to state the basis of their appeal of the fine. And they'll have an opportunity to do that, whether it's them or their attorneys or anybody that's representing Cumberland Farms will have an opportunity to be part of that presentation of what the basis of the appeal is. Once they do that, the Board of Health again will have an opportunity to ask questions of Cumberland Farms. Then anybody who's an attorney, whether it's an attorney representing the town of Lancaster or Cumberland Farms themselves, will be able to add any additional comments that they wish to add. Again, the Board of Health will have an opportunity to address any questions or comments to the attorneys. Once that is done, I'm going to open it up to anybody else in the room. And anybody else that wants to make a comment about this, again, about the specific violation and appeal. I really don't want to have people getting into a long discussion about tobacco and the benefits of it or the evils of it or anything like that, because that's not going to be relevant to the appeal or the violation. So once anybody else who's either not from the Board of Health or not from Tobacco Control or not from Cumberland Farms or not an attorney has had a chance to make a comment, then I'm going to summarize the case. I'm going to provide my own personal opinion about the appeal, and then I'm going to ask for a motion by one of the Board of Health members, and then we will have a vote. And the vote does not have to be unanimous. So we either vote 3-0 or 2-1 on whatever motion has been made. So we'll do that exact scenario for each of the three Cumberland Farm appeals for 3 violations at 2 different stores. Once we close all that out, we will get to Racing Mart and to the rest of our agenda. So let me stop there and see if that's clear, if anybody has any issues with that process or any questions or suggestions. Go ahead, David.
Hi, good morning, Mr. Chair.
Morning.
I just wanted to, make it be known to the board that unfortunately Cumberland Farms, never received notice of the meeting being held this morning. I know I only learned of it last evening from Joan. We were at a separate matter in a different town. So, Cumberland Farms, while we could present this morning, we would rather, ask the board to continue the hearings until the next meeting in December, just to give us time to properly provide you with supporting documentation and to ensure that my entire team is able to attend as well.
That's entirely reasonable, Mr. Allen. And I apologize for the fact that you didn't get full and formal notification of the hearing date and time and all that information. So what we'll do is we will defer the Cumberland Farm matters to either the next meeting of the Board of Health, or it's possible in order to conserve time, I may choose an interim meeting time, potentially, maybe the first or second week of December on a Thursday.
So either would work for Cumberland Farms. So
All right.
at the discretion of the board, we're good with either.
All right. So what we'll do is we'll meet internally, try to figure out whether we want to do this at the next scheduled board meeting or whether we want to have an interim hearing for Cumberland Farms. And if we decide to have an interim hearing date, I'll make sure that date is going to work for both Tobacco Control and Cumberland, as well as, of course, the board and the town's attorneys. And assuming that it does, we'll make that schedule. Otherwise, it will come out as a hearing as part of the agenda for the next regularly scheduled December board meeting.
Excellent.
Excellent.
One additional question, in terms of supporting documentation, do I submit that to you, to Samantha, or, because I know we would have some additional documentation we'd like the board to consider and look at prior to the meeting.
Sure, absolutely. So I would submit it to Samantha, let her, she's going to be sort of the keeper of all the documents for these hearings. And she will get it to me and the other board members
Excellent. Appreciate it.
Jeff, if I
as
may
well.
jump in.
Go ahead, Tony, sure.
So the regulations say that this hearing has to be held within 30 days of when the order was served. So continuing it is fine, but if Mr. Allen, would consider agreeing to waiving that 30-day requirement, just so we can actually have the meeting in December, that would be helpful.
Yes, no, we would certainly be willing to waive that requirement.
Right, thank you.
Yep.
All right, great. And thank you for that, Tony. And that's noted in the recording as part of the record that we've agreed to waive that requirement. And again, so we'll meet either at the next regularly scheduled board meeting or at another time in between now and then, depending on what works for everybody.
Excellent. Thank you.
All right. So again, our apologies. Thanks for coming and letting us know. And we'll see you at a hearing to be scheduled soon.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okey doke. Very good. So just want to acknowledge that we also have in the meeting Bill Brookings. Bill is our health agent from the Neshoba Associated Health Boards. Good to see you back, Bill.
Thank you.
So let's keep moving through the agenda. So the next item would be N&K Lancaster Limited Liability Corporation Mobile Racing Mart at 1424 Lunenburg Street in Lancaster, Mass. Sunit Sharma, are you here? You're here for this hearing, correct?
I am.
Okay, and
Good
can you
morning.
state, good morning, sir. Can you state what your role is with regard to the business?
Sure. So I'm the Director of Operations for all of our company operated locations.
Okay. All right, so Sunit, we're going to proceed exactly in the exact same way that I just described for Cumberland Farms. So we're going to start out with either Joan and or Jody presenting what the violation was. We're going to, once they're satisfied that they've presented all the facts as they feel they need to, the board will have an opportunity to ask questions if there are any. Then you and or any representatives that you've brought will be able to present your appeal, what you're appealing and why. The board may, if they want to, ask some questions for you. Any attorneys that are present that want to participate in discussion will have an opportunity. Then I will summarize the case, ask for a motion, and we'll have a vote. Does that work for you?
Excellent. It does. Thank you.
Okay. So Joan or Jody, do you want to start us off on that one?
Okay, so as I said before, I'm Joan Hamlet, the Lancaster Tobacco Control Agent, and I'm also Director of the Board of Health Tobacco Control Alliance. I think all the parties have a copy of the violation order. And on October 11th, 2024, our agency did a compliance check in Lancaster, whereby Racing Mart sold a package of three-pack package of backwoods to an 18-year-old youth inspector. And this makes it the second violation in a 36-month period of the state laws. And the order issued a $2,000 fine and a 7-day consecutive business day suspension as per the state law. And our local regulations also require call for a 7-day suspension on a sale to a minor for the second time. So we issued the violation and we set the suspension date, and they are appealing the hearing. We reviewed the process, we reviewed the paperwork. There's no processing error, there's no protocol error. And our recommendation is for a responsible finding. However, I do believe, did Racing Mart pay this fine? So they took responsibility for it and they're appealing just the suspension portion?
That is correct. We have paid the fine.
Okay, so the disputing the facts of what happened are not at the table today. It is, they're asking for an appeal based on the suspension. The state law sets minimums of how many days, and it's for a second offense to the sale of a minor, the state law says no 7 days. But if you had a local regulation that had more than, then it could be looked at more than. So our recommendation is for a responsible finding.
Okay. And I'll just interject before I ask Melinda or Sheila if they have any questions. You stated that the facts are not at issue because he paid the fine. I do not want to make that assumption. I'm going to let Sunit speak for himself about whether or not he does have any disputation of the violation at all. Sheila, Melinda, any questions or comments for Joan?
I do not have any questions or comments for Joan.
I don't have any questions at this time.
Okay. So Sunit, you're up to tell us what is your basis for appealing the suspension?
Sure. So, if you note on the paperwork, the first offense was not due to the sale to a minor. It was display of a flavored tobacco product, which was sent to us accidentally by a grocery supplier. The sale never occurred to a minor. So that's the first point. On the issue that happened on October 11th, we fully take responsibility for that. Running a chain of convenience stores, there's always that human element. We have a zero tolerance policy for underage tobacco or alcohol sales to consumers. It's grounds for immediate termination for the employee. We've implemented a policy in the stores where every customer that is going to purchase a tobacco product or an alcohol product where we sell alcohol is required to have their ID scanned at the register for age verification. So we've put those policies in place to mitigate this from happening again in the future. What we're asking for is for relief of the 7-day suspension to anything less than that, due to the fact that the first offense was not due to a sale to a minor.
Okay. All right. So I think I'm understanding that your disputation of the suspension is not based on the fact that the minor was sold a tobacco product. It's based on the fact that, or what you're stating as fact, that the first violation was not a sale of a tobacco product to a minor. It was a different offense. Is am I summarizing your case correctly?
You are.
All right, and I'm going to come back to Joan in a minute, but before I do, I want to see if Sheila or Melinda have any questions or comments for Mr. Sharma.
I don't have any questions at this time, and thank you for your summary.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for providing that. My question would be back to Joan, but I'll let Joan respond first and perhaps she'll answer the question.
All right, so I guess let me try to phrase a question for Joan. So my question, hopefully this is the correct question to ask. The question is first, there are two parts to the question. The first part is, was the first offense sale of a tobacco product to a minor, or was it some other offense? And if it was not for the same offense, the same violation as this one cited, which is sale of a tobacco product to a minor, is that relevant? Is the fact that this is a second offense of any kind enough to enforce the higher fine fee and the 7-day suspension?
Okay. So the first offense, we do have the violation history on the first page of the actual violation order. And the first offense was January 10th, 2024, and they were offering flavored product, and it was $1,000 fine, and they paid it. So the first offense was not a sale to a minor. And then it isn't relevant. The short answer is no, it's not relevant, because unfortunately, the state law doesn't toll 1, 2, 3 for flavor 1, 2, 3 in a 36-month paid period for a sale to a minor or over the nicotine content. It's if you have a violation of any of these on the order within a 36-month period, they toll on each other first, second, and third. And as your tobacco agent, we issue it as per the state law. We can't make any deviation from that. And we work very hard with our retailers because public health is to be, we want to help our retailers come into compliance, but when we have a situation, you know, we have to follow and issue the order as per the state law. So, you know, we believe Racing Mart, this is an expensive mistake.
Yeah.
And it is a very costly mistake. And so I ran a chain of convenience stores in Connecticut for a number of years before I came over to Racing Mart. And unfortunately, it doesn't matter where you are. That saying is you can't fix stupid, right? So you have an employee that doesn't check for an ID or checks for an ID and lets it slide. No matter how much training we have, no matter how much signage we have, you can't fix that employee's actions. The state of Connecticut institute a policy where the employee that is in the infraction gets a personal fine of $300, making it more detrimental to the employee, where it's outside of our control. No matter how much training, signage we put up and measures, you just can't fix people's actions, no matter how much you try. So all we're looking for is a little bit of relief on the 7-day suspension.
All right. Well, so I think the first of all, Sunit, I've heard your stated commitment toward being within the compliance of all the regulations and how hard you're trying to work to institute training and signage and other means to achieve that. And yeah, it's difficult to control what could be, dozens of employees on different shifts, who may not be as diligent as we'd like them to be. But I think, as Joan stated, this is an area where really the state does not allow us really wiggle room in this particular area. So I don't really think there's a way around the fact that you're going to be obligated not just for the fine but for the suspension. I do have a question for you. Is the store open on Thanksgiving on the 28th?
It is.
Okay. All right. So in summary, I'm sorry. Is there anybody else that you have to speak on your behalf, Sunit, or is it just you?
I do not. It's just
Okay.
myself.
All right. Is there anybody else present that wants to make a comment or ask a question about this particular violation before I summarize the case? Okay. So in summary, we have a situation with Racing Mart where, in spite of their attempts to be in compliance, they've committed a second violation of tobacco control regulations. It happens to be a different violation than the first one, but the way the regulation is written, that it's basically a second offense, which involves the fine, which is already paid, as well as a 7-day suspension. I'm going to recommend to the board that we make a motion to institute, to agree with tobacco control on this one and uphold the suspension. That suspension would begin, and I think Racing Mart is open 24/7. Is that right?
That is correct.
So I think what we'll do to make this sort of orderly around because usually I would be talking in terms of close of business, but there is no close of business. And Joan, if what I'm about to do is wrong, I'm gonna suggest that we start the suspension as of midnight, November 22nd, which is technically tomorrow. So midnight tonight, and that suspension run for a full 7 days through 11:59 p.m. of November 28th, and that the suspension be lifted at that point. Go ahead, Joan.
What we plan to recommend, because normally, if there's a responsible finding, we reset the dates. We were going to recommend December 6th through Thursday, December 12th, because we already have a series of permit suspensions lined up for other people in that period. And I have secret shoppers. I have an inspector that's available that Friday morning to go to all the locations and make sure they're in compliance. We have somebody lined up to give the calls the night before, the courtesy calls the night before. So it would be consistent with us already having staff lined up to properly man that suspension if it can be December 6th through December 12th.
I don't see any reason why we can't rule that way. So, so that would be, so the suspension would start on midnight of December 6th and would end 11:59 p.m. of December 12th. That would be a full 7 days, right?
Correct.
6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. All right. Any other discussion? Can we get a motion?
I will make a motion to uphold the violation, the second violation for N&K Lancaster LLC Racing Mart for the suspension of 7 days, 7 consecutive business days as required by state law. The suspension will run from December 6th, 12 a.m., December 6th through 12 a.m., December 12th.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All right, all in favor, I'll do a roll call vote. Sheila Mallett,
Aye.
Linda Apgar,
Aye.
Jeff Pastor, aye. Motion carries unanimous. I think this hearing is now closed. So we'll close the hearing at 10:01 a.m. And we'll move on to other Board of Health business.
Thank you.
Okey doke. Before we go on to other Board of Health business, I think we can probably say there's no other tobacco related business. So anybody that's on the call that's just here for the tobacco hearings, you're certainly welcome to stay for the remainder of the Board of Health meeting. But if you were here because of tobacco related issues, you've already heard that we're going to either look for another date for Cumberland Farms for those hearings, or do those hearings at the next Board of Health meeting in December. And I think we know who everybody is, so we'll make sure that you get notified. Tony, did you have a question or comment?
No, I was just saying, I'm gonna jump off and,
Okay.
thank
All right, thanks, Tony. All right, I want to make sure that I know why other folks are here, just in case you have an agenda item that you want to address. I often will rearrange the agenda when I have guests who want to speak to an agenda item, just to be respectful of their time. So, Elias Farragus, could you tell us for what agenda item are you here? If any?
Yes, I'm here when you guys discuss the dirt problems at the FC Stars facility in Lancaster.
Which agenda item is that?
I don't have the agenda open right now.
That would be 2D.
70 McGovern.
Okay. Yeah, we're going to be talking about that. We're also going to be talking about another dust issue, which is 2E, which is 194 Grantway. Okay, Elias, we will get to that. Let me just check with Nicole Ferguson. Nicole, can you give me an idea of what brings you to the Board of Health meeting today?
Yep, I'm the applicant for 0 Hilltop Road subdivision.
Okay.
I just thought it was on for the discussion.
All right. All right, so I think what we'll do is, if it's okay with Bill, uh, is it okay, Bill, if we move to 70 McGovern Boulevard, and then 194 Grant Way, and then Zero Hilltop, and do those items in that order, and then come back to the beginning of the agenda?
Yes.
Okay. And Bill, are you prepared to provide sort of a description and background for 70 McGovern Boulevard, FC Star Soccer Fields?
I'll do my best. Prior to my absence, I had talked to Elias about his complaint of dust over at the FC Stars Fields on McGovern Boulevard. Indicated, practices were in the evening. I did not have a chance to inspect that site at night, but I did drive down there during the day. The only dust I saw was the dust behind my vehicle, because once you cross the bridge, it's paved off of Route 70. It changes to kind of a dirt area. I did call the owner. The reason that area is not paved, I should say the owner of the road. So FC Stars owns the parcel where the soccer fields are. A different owner owns the road itself. So that seemed to be the source of dust. So in my absence, Jim did go out to the fields at night while practices were going on. And again, when he witnessed dust, it was, I think, vehicles leaving the site. Again, I don't want to speak for Jim, but the bottom line is it seems like vehicles traveling over that area of dirt road creating the dust. So, I think, we're prepared to draft some type of order to the owner of the road in violation of the dust odor noise regulation, which is a DEP reg. But I'll also call the owner of the road, because I had spoken to him before about, options, possible laying down, grinding, something like that that would keep the dust down versus paving it. So that's where that one stands.
Okay. All right. So if I'm hearing correctly, there's been a complaint about dust. It's been investigated by both you and Jim Gareffi. The only dust that we've been able to observe has been road-based dust, which is not owned by FC Stars. It's owned by a different owner. And there's an observation that because this is a dirt road and it's creating dust when vehicles are traveling over it, that it is a DEP. It is likely a DEP violation and should be corrected. Bill has some suggestions for the owner about how they might correct it, and that would mean, Bill, if I'm reading into this correctly, that we would get a commitment from the road owner to fix the problem by one means or another that is deemed to provide control of dust, whether it's paved or some other material is put over the dirt, and that would presumably resolve the complaint. And I'll get to you in a second, Elias, but I just want to make sure I'm understanding what Bill's position is first.
Yeah, I would agree with that statement. I like personally to, give that owner a chance verbally to correct the problem and
Sure.
give us some type of a time frame. And if he
Yep.
fails to cooperate, then we, issue some type of order in which we would give him a time frame.
All right. So, what would you think? What would your recommendation be for a reasonable time frame?
Well, I'd like to talk to the owner and see, what works for him. I mean, if he says he can do it in a week, well, that's great. If he says 3 months, I think we'll be having a different discussion.
And the other observation that's probably reasonable to make is that I'm assuming that soccer is not being played in that area right now at this time of year anyway. So even
I
if
don't know that.
Okay.
I think winter might change that, but maybe Elias could let us know maybe what their season is.
Yeah,
All right.
there are still practices over the winter. There's not as many teams as in the spring and fall, but for
Okay.
example, all the fields were full last night while we were there, and even over the winter, teams will be there most evenings.
Okay. So, Elias, having listened to Bill's proposal about how he'd like to handle things with the road owner, assuming that that was taken care of within a reasonable period of time, whether, it's a couple of weeks or maybe a month, would that be satisfactory to you?
To me, a couple weeks or a month sounds reasonable. I think from my perspective, the issue is that this was reported to you guys already 2 months ago. And so I understand it takes time to do things, but it's already been a couple months. And I think just what I'm hearing in this conversation is I'm not really sure that the the real purpose of this complaint is that this is very dangerous to the health of young athletes. This is not a, hey, there's dust collecting on our cars, or it's just an annoying nuisance. This is a very real and immediate danger to many, many children's health. And with that being said, the 2 months already that has happened, I think has been long enough, and it's getting frustrating. And I'm seeing, other parents starting to chime in about all of these dust issues and how bad it is for the kids. And I just wanted to offer that for context for you guys. I know you guys have been very busy. It's difficult for you to be there at all times. When I first talked to Bill about this a couple months ago, because of that, he requested, "Can you just send me pictures so we will have the evidence?" And I've been doing that. So I appreciate what you're doing. On face value, it sounds reasonable. I just wanted to offer that context with the time for your consideration as well.
Well, I appreciate what you're saying, Elias, and certainly, there are reasons for these regulations, and the reasons are, exactly along the lines of what you've just stated, that dust can be a serious problem for human beings to breathe in. Certainly, younger people are more, maybe more at risk to, based on the level of dust than even adults. So, I want to reassure you that the board takes the problem seriously. And given the fact that there's been some time that has passed since the original notification, we can try to move sooner rather than later. Bill, go ahead. I see your hand coming.
Well, yes, I don't know if Elias is aware that I have been out on an extended medical leave, approximately a month and a half, and I will be back to work physically very soon. In the interim, Jim obviously is doing the best he can to cover any items in my towns. Getting out to a field at night isn't necessarily easy. And I think Jim tried to time those visits with night meetings in Shirley, because that would send him in that direction. And Jim did say to me verbally that he went out at least for maybe 5 times before he actually saw the dust. So, it's not like nothing has been done in the last 2 months, but again, we cannot cite something that we're not seeing. Now that Jim has seen this probably relatively recently on his 5th trip, we're prepared to take action. And I think the owner should be given a chance to act in a timely manner.
Yes, absolutely. And one, I'm glad you're feeling better. Welcome back. And that was less of a criticism against you guys and more just me expressing my frustration. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we understand your concern. And Elias, literally, like the day that you sent those photos was like the week I was beginning to not feel myself, and ended up unfortunately being out for an extended period of time. So yes, timing is everything. It certainly has been a bit since we've talked, but yes, now that I'm back and we have Jim witnessing that, it's important. I hope you understand we can't take action on your photos. Your photos give us a reason to pursue this complaint. But again, until myself or Jim or one of the Board of Health members sees the violation, we can't cite it. We can't go to court with your photos. We have to go to court with either photos we've taken or something that we've actually witnessed. We have to see it to cite it.
Understood. Thank you.
All right. Well, so Elias, I appreciate your patience on this, and it has been a difficult time. Just parenthetically, or maybe not so parenthetically, I also have been out on an extended medical leave, literally at the same time that Bill has, which has caused a few hiccups in the Board of Health as well. But so obviously, I think we're committed to moving this forward. I'm going to summarize by saying that we've agreed. We'll look for a motion. I'm not sure we need any motion here, Bill. I think we just need a follow up with you that says that you've committed to. Go ahead, Bill.
Well, I would like to say that I will call the owner tomorrow I
Okay.
will report to the board what I hear, and I will also let Elias know because I do have his contact information. So, you know, if the owner sounds like he's willing to give us a tight time frame and we'll keep an eye on it, great. If not, you know, again, we'll begin. We already have the witnessing of the issue. So, you know, Jim or I would draft an order if the owner is not cooperative over the phone.
That sounds good, Bill, and I would ask that you, in your conversation with the road owner, make sure they understand that we're looking for some quick action, not just
Yes.
because it's a DEP violation, but because, as Elias very eloquently stated, it's a serious concern for the health and well-being of the children that are, you know, being shepherded in cars back and forth over this road.
Yeah, I agree.
And all right, so let's agree to move forward that way. You'll keep us updated, Bill, and
Yes.
you'll be in contact with Elias directly based on what your findings are with the road owner.
Correct.
Any questions or comments from Sheila or Melinda before we move on?
No, sir.
Nope, and it's good to have you back, Bill.
Thank you. Good to be back.
Yeah, I was going to say, he's a sight for sore eyes. You know, it's good. It's I didn't want to get out of the meeting mode before everybody else. We still had everybody here for the tobacco hearings, but I'm glad you're back and feeling better, and I'm back and I'm feeling better. And
Yep, I'm back virtually. I attended a Berlin and Bolton Zoom meeting on Tuesday night, and obviously I'm here today, and I will be back physically very soon, and I will text the board immediately when that occurs.
So glad to see you. So glad to have you back.
Thank you.
Pleasant surprise.
totally. All right. Why don't we let's go to since we're talking about dust, let's go to 194 Grant Way, just because Elias is still here and may be interested in that case as well. So the short summary that I will provide is that this is another, actually much longer standing complaint that was made by a resident at 194 Grant Way on a earth moving company, excavation company that abuts their property, where they had piles of material that was close enough to their property that was causing some significant issues for them. We've been back and forth on a process with the business owner to let them know that they also were in violation of DEP regulations, and we were asking them before we cited them to voluntarily agree to move these piles. I believe that if I'm remembering correctly, Bill, some of the stuff, the material was moved. However, there was still another pile that was in the vicinity of the property that we were asking them to move, and that seemed to be taking a longer period of time to resolve.
Correct. There were 3 or 4 piles of sand in this area, and 3 of them were very fine material. One of them was very coarse material. So the owner took care of the fine material, feeling that's the type of pile that would create dust if the wind hits it just right. But again, I spoke to the owner. I said, you know, just to keep it simple with the abutter and with the board, let's get rid of all the piles so there's no question. Jim indicated, you know, I had talked to the owner again before my absence, and he said he would move that pile. Jim went out and took a look. He feels the pile's gone, but I will go out there again when I am back and verify, because I obviously know where the piles were. Jim did his best based on description, but I would like to just lay eyes on it. And again, I'll report that to the board.
Okay. All right. So why don't we carry the item for the next through the next meeting, and by then, Bill will, you know, we'll have had a month to get over there and make sure that pile is gone.
Yes.
And that should take care of that issue. All right. Very good. Thank you so much. Let's go over to 0 Hilltop Road, the subdivision there. And Nicole, do you want to start us off and say why you're here and what you'd like
Yeah,
out
so
of this meeting?
we had actually had a meeting and back in August, and Bill had attended that, just with a couple different department heads to kind of go over what the subdivision was going to be. We right now are proposing to have water and sewer, so I'm not sure if that has really any effect on the board, but I was just here in case there was any questions.
Right. So normally, when a new when there's new construction, whether it's a single family or a subdivision or a multifamily dwelling or whatever, any plans, any engineering plans having to have to do with water and sewer would be coming through to the board. Do Bill or Samantha, do we know if we have any plans in front of us today to approve?
Yeah, I have
We-
them. I can show them.
Yeah, we might have looked at this a while back. Nicole, is this going for preliminary or definitive subdivision approval?
Definitive.
Definitive. So, usually, Jeff, unless there's something out of the ordinary, the board would issue a standard comment saying that if septic and wells were proposed, that those
Right.
septic and wells must meet current state and local regulations. If they're proposing town water, town sewer, I don't know that the Board of Health would really have any comments, because again, those areas of direct jurisdiction of the board wouldn't be proposed in a subdivision on water and sewer.
So should we be reviewing the plans, or should we just be saying that as long as the plans are in accordance with prescribed practices and regulations, that the Board of Health has no objection to the subdivision proceeding?
Yeah, something like that would be fine.
Okay.
I
All right.
mean, again, if for some reason water and sewer didn't work out, the proponent would be back before the board for those type of permits and approvals. And even if it was going to be septic and well, the board usually doesn't say anything too specific because, again, we don't have design plans to review. At that point, we'd be having more specific comments to the proponent and their engineer. So I don't know if the planning board is looking for something from the board, but if it's town water, town sewer, there's really not a whole lot to say.
Samantha, didn't we have a letter from the planning board or the building commissioner?
Yes, I have a letter from Brian.
Can you pull it up on the screen? Let us take a quick look at it and see if there's something specific that he's asking us to do.
Sure thing. Do you see the plans right now?
No, we're seeing the pool where I think you and your husband had a vacation.
Palm trees and a pool.
Okay. Do you see the plan now?
Yes.
Cover
Okay,
sheet.
so I'll pull
Yep.
it up.
I'd rather look at the pool, but yes, I see the plans.
Okay, 1 second. Let me pull the email up.
While you're doing that, I want to acknowledge Sherry Gould. I see that you're here at the Board of Health meeting, and I just would ask you really briefly can you tell us if there's a specific agenda item that you're here to participate in, or are you just observing?
Thank you,
Because if
Mr.
you're
Chair. Thank you,
Sure.
Mr. Chair. I'm the attorney for Lauren Jennings and James Crosby on 182 Fort Pond Inn Road.
Okay. All right, good. I'm glad I asked because my practice is when we do have guests for a specific agenda item that I like to go out of order and take care of those items so that we can be respectful of people's time. So after we finish up here with Zero Hilltop, we'll go to 182 Fort Pond. Actually, 182 Fort Pond Inn Road would be the next item on the agenda anyway.
Jeff, just to let you know, Jim is attempting to be here for that 10:30 hearing since he did the inspection.
Okay. That's right. That's technically scheduled as a 10:30 here.
Correct.
Okay. So we'll
Thank you.
have to wait. We'll have to wait until at least 10:30, Sherry.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Okay, do you see that?
Yes. Could you just blow it up a little bit so we can read it a little bit better?
Yep.
Yeah, good. Thanks. All right. I'm just going to read this out loud. This is a definitive subdivision application for an 18-unit single-family development on undeveloped land on Hilltop Road, once part of the BSF property, and abutted by town-owned forest and other residential development, at least some of which are on a private well. The developer is proposing public sewer and has some sewer credits available through the LSDC, which is the Lancaster Sewer District Commission. District Commission, if he can get subdivision approval from the planning board. So that's not a Board of Health decision. I believe the number of sewer credits will enable him to construct 11 of the proposed homes. He will wait for more sewer credits to be released before building the rest of the proposed units. However, developer has not agreed to conduct a feasible water supply, has not agreed to connect to a feasible public water supply that would run, developer has not yet agreed to connect to a feasible public water supply that would run from the intersection of George Hill Road and along Hilltop Road. He is proposing to connect to a public water supply on Bull Hill Road that would then cut across 2 private lots under wetlands to his site. It is possible that this plan is not approved by DPW or Conservation Commission. Likely, he will opt to propose private wells, and if the sewer credits get sold to someone else before he gets approval, he may need to provide individual septic for each lot. If he agrees to connect to public water supply on Hilltop, the subdivision could be approved, assuming other requirements are met, and he will be connecting to public water and sewer. What I'm requesting is the Board of Health consider whether private utilities would be approved or not. Again, connection to a public water supply is feasible, and partial sewer credits are available as of today. So it sounds like he's got enough credits to connect to sewer for 11 of the 18 proposed lots, but the issue is water.
So there's actually 3 ways that we could potentially get water to this site. The planning board is trying to say that it's not feasible, but they haven't let us go through the process of trying to figure out what is feasible and what is not feasible. So the chances of us having water are very, very high. As of right now, we actually have sewer credits, I believe now for 13 of the lots. I mean, I assume we're gonna be able to get the remaining 5 over the course of the next couple years, because by the time we get to having to build all of those houses, we'll probably be about 3 years out.
So Nicole, are you saying that you simply are requesting, you're letting the Board of Health know that you're going to be requesting more time on the part of the planning board to figure out what is feasible for water?
Yeah, so we're still looking, like I said, we have 3 separate options of getting public water to the property. We're just working through, the town would like us to go George Hill, but we do have other options as well. So I'm sure we're gonna end up going the water route. That's what we would prefer, and I'm sure we can probably make it work. And then as far as the sewer credits, like I said, I believe at this point now, I have to double check my emails, but I believe we have 13, enough for 13 lots.
Well, I'm not really concerned about the sewer issue, Nicole, because I think it's clear that the only lots that would be approved would be those that where there's enough credits to connect to sewer, and unless you were then going to propose septic systems for those lots, and that would be a separate issue. So Bill, if it is this something that you think is reasonable for us to defer until this is worked out between planning and the the developers?
I do, and I think we need to make it clear to Brian that we cannot answer his question. He's asking the board
Yeah.
whether or not private utilities would be approved. We can't say that. We do not have design plans.
Yeah.
We can't say that. All we can say is, a massive amount of soil testing's been done. We can't say if it's on the right location to design the system. I mean, this is all information that we would be given after the subdivision approval. Once the subdivision's approved, they have legal lot lines, they then begin design for septic and well. So, we can say something general like soil testing's been done and witnessed. Yes, we know wells in that neighborhood are very deep. They're not good producers. They do not have good quality. But again, through treatment, through storage tanks, through deepening of wells, we don't have lots on that street that couldn't be built because they couldn't find water. But again, we don't know. You never know what they're going to hit when they drill a well. So we can't say whether or not private utilities would be approved. All we can say is private utilities, again, septic and well, must meet current state and local regs. That's all we can say. There's no guarantee. We cannot guarantee. We cannot approve. We do not have any design information.
Because it's really too preliminary for us as a Board of Health to really do too much with it. So
qualify our comment. Yes.
Yeah. So my suggestion, Bill, if this seems reasonable, is for you to work on a response to Brian, maybe draft a response with sort of those notes, those elements in it, run it by me, and then we can finalize it, and I can work with Samantha and Lori to get that letter back to Brian and make sure that maybe we're not missing something. Maybe there is something else that we should be doing for planning board right now that isn't clear to us right now at this meeting.
Yeah, that works.
Okay. Nicole, does that work for you?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we're most likely 99% sure it's gonna end up being sewer and water. So, yeah, I would agree that there's not really much
Okay.
the board can do at this time.
All right, and we've been joined by Jim. Jim, thanks for coming. It's rare that we get to see Jim and Bill together at the same time in the same meeting.
Third time this week.
I know.
So, Jim, you don't have any comments specifically on this particular item, do you?
No, I had talked to Bill a little bit before, and he mentioned he would be here, and I think he probably addressed it better than I could, so that worked out well.
All right, so I think we can close this one out. I think we've got a plan to get a letter drafted back to Brian, making sure that he knows that we understand what the issues are, what our position is in the sense of soil testing and other things that we can comment on, and what we would need back from him or from other sources in order to move forward with any other needs that are specifically Board of Health related. Questions or comments from Sheila or Melinda before we move on to the hearing for 182 Fort Pond Inn Road?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Nicole.
Thank you.
Hello?
Hello.
Good morning.
Is that Lauren's iPad?
Yes.
Lauren, can you give us your full name, first and last name?
Lauren Jennings.
All right, I'm just going to rename you for the record.
I already did it.
Okie doke. Thank you, Samantha. And Lauren, are you here for 182 Fort Pond Inn Road?
Yes.
And Sherry is as well, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so we had several issues with this property. I'm going to try to summarize them, but and I'm going to ask for help from Jim and Bill first to make sure that we are clear about what the issues are. My understanding is that there was initially Sorry. There was an initial complaint by a tenant about mold. There was some discussion with the property owners about remediation, mitigation of the mold. There was some discussion that occurred within that time frame about, well, maybe the property is going to actually have to be raised and eliminated. We, the owners, would then provide for housing for the tenants until that was done. Somehow along the way, an inspection was done of the property. There were numerous violations, including what we call 24-hour violations found. My understanding is that that inspection violation, that inspection which was done by Jim, I believe,
Yes.
is being now appealed by the owner. So I want to first ask Jim, I think you're taking the lead on this one to correct anything that I've said, or maybe add any appropriate detail to what I've said to make sure it's clear what the issues are.
Sure. So I received a call from the occupant with some concerns. Initially, it mentioned that she should chat with the owners about the situation. She called back and asked me to come out and take a look at the mold condition. When I got there, the housing code requires that we offer occupants a full housing inspection, which I did. Conducted the full housing inspection. At that point there, it would have seemed that the owners were kind of working on doing the remediation because the bathroom was torn apart. Well, walls were removed, the interior walls were removed, so they can kind of expose issues behind the wall, which meant the toilet and the sink were out of the bathroom, so it wasn't really a functioning bathroom. And that's one of the 24-hour violations. The other one was the smoke detectors, which I have received word that those have been fixed. So in this case here, whenever the Board of Health issues an order on a property owner, the property owner has a right to a hearing. And there are three actions that generally a board can take. You can either sustain the order, you can modify the order, and typically modifications are for if somebody needs additional time to do work on the house, or you can withdraw the order because maybe there was some error in it, or things have been addressed, or whatever the situation is. So those are your three actions. And I don't know if there's anything else you need from me.
All right, so we're going to hear from the property owners in a second, but I just want to be clear that the order is to fix the violations. We can either uphold that without without any modifications. We can suggest modifications, maybe based on either what the owners say or about what the board thinks, maybe the timeline, or maybe it's true that there's some evidence that some of these things are underway and we can have some leniency with it, or we can vacate the order entirely.
Correct. And so the modification, if you sustain the order, all the original timeframes in the orders are in place. If you modify the order, then you can set new timeframes. And again, sometimes people are ordering windows or need to get a door, and you can order it to be done in a certain period of time, but there's time schedules sometimes that are hard to meet. So,
yeah. All right. So it's really up to now to hear from the owners in terms of appealing the order and the violations. Do you want to take the floor?
Jerry?
If you don't mind, I'll speak for the owners. Sherry Gould, I'm an attorney in Littleton, Mass. Hello, everyone. I just wanted to comment. I don't think I've seen Bill for a decade or so. So, hello, everyone.
Still here.
So am I. And I'm in Oregon, so I'm still, wallow-eyed. I just woke up. Jim and I spoke about this. The landlords and the tenants have spoken about this, and I think everybody's being as reasonable as is possible under the circumstances. We appealed it only because we wanted to bring to the board's attention that we took very seriously the safety of the tenant as the first and foremost thing. And the landlords have housed the tenants in a hotel immediately to start the work under the orders. The tenant and the landlords have been talking. haven't reached agreement on what, if any, damages are appropriate to be paid, but the tenant has agreed to vacate and terminate the lease, as has the landlords. And the tenant has relocated to another town, I believe Sutton. The landlords have been advised, they brought a mold remediation company in. They've been advised that the mold problem is probably too serious to even expend the money on. They think it's in the roof and perhaps in the sheetrock walls. None of this was done deliberately, by the way. Let me just add that the landlords bought a property on Fort Pond Inn Road that had a cottage, like an ADU unit. It was rented when they bought it, and when that tenant vacated, they rented again. But as soon as they found the problem, as I said, they relocated the tenant, agreed to terminate the lease. And I believe it's their intention now to either raise the cottage or gut it or completely restore it. So personally, I think that there's no problem with the orders remaining, except that I would ask that the orders remain either for the cottage to be raised, or if they want to rent again, to remediate everything in the orders in a period of time that includes rebuilding, which may be 6 months to a year, but not to have any occupants in there until that's done, one way or the other.
So let me try to summarize, make sure I've heard things correctly. Initially, the owners provided the tenant with hotel accommodations while they were looking at the problem. As a result of some discussions back and forth between the owners and the tenant, it was decided that the tenant would not return to the property, that the lease would be vacated. So there's currently no lease on the property. The previous tenants are really now, it's sort of now a moot point. The property is not rented, and the owners are in the process of trying to decide what to do with the property, whether it's going to be leveled and rebuilt or repaired and fixed. The owners, from what you just said, Sherry, I think I heard you say that the owners have agreed that they would not rent the property until such time as it was put back in a situation where all of the violations were corrected, whether that was through repair or through a complete rebuild. Is that right?
That's absolutely correct.
Right.
And just for the board's, I don't know, for your record, I would just add, they are more than willing and agreeable to negotiate with the tenant a reasonable, refund of monies paid or whatever it takes financially, but that's not in front of the board today.
Right. That's really not a board of health issue unless somebody makes it a board of health issue.
Right.
So, from one point of view, it might make sense to allow the owners to have as much time as they wanted to fix these problems, since the property is not occupied. The problem that the board has, or at least one of the problems that the board has, since the board is not a policing agency, we have no way of knowing what's going on in that property. There's really no way for us to know for sure. And I'm just going to give a hypothetical. Let's say I decided hypothetically, since the property is not occupied, since we believe, we have no reason to believe that the property owners are not people of good faith and stature, that they will eventually fix things and create a property that's rentable with no violations. The problem is if they have 6 months to do that, how does the Board of Health know that they don't rent it to somebody in 3 weeks? So that's our problem. That's at least one of our problems. And so I'm a little hesitant to give really too much, if any, additional leeway to the process. So I think what we need to hear about is, if we start with the face value of what the order was in terms of what needs to be corrected and how soon it needs to be corrected, can those conditions be met? And if they cannot be met, when can they be met?
Mr. Chair, can I just
Please go ahead, Jim.
So
Yeah.
Yeah, on the tenancy, I saw a document that seems to be an agreement being worked out between parties, but it's not signed. So I don't know that tenancy has been, the lease has been relinquished. So at this point here, I'm still going under the impression that it's an occupied unit or somebody who has rights to occupy that unit that we did the inspection on. So I guess the first thing we would need to know is, and again, whether it's a signed agreement or however the board's comfortable with that, knowing that it's no longer an occupied unit. I think after that, then the flexibility is yours as a board as far as occupancy. I mean, if whether you had the owners check in with the time frame once they've had somebody to kind of take a look at the unit, if it's truly unoccupied. So if, again, we get proof that the occupancy has been ceased. Have them check in with the board from time to time to provide you with an update of what they're doing with the property. If they secure the property and nobody else is in there, I was in the property and I could certainly attest to the fact that those walls in that bathroom are in pretty rough shape. It looked like it was probably an old camp that then got converted to the house. The flashing around the roof on the back is kind of in poor shape. So it may be something that, again, to the owner's point, not repairable or certainly not cost effectively repairable. So again, whether you would want them to kind of provide you with a statement that says we will do one of two things, we will leave it unoccupied, or prior to it being occupied, we will have all of the violations corrected and re-inspected by the Board of Health before somebody occupies it. That would be, I guess, my recommendation to the board. I think determining the tenancy is the important thing at this point.
I just realized I was speaking on mute. So I agree with everything Jim just said. I think that the key issue is to assure that we have something in writing that is proof that the property is not occupied, is currently, that there is no lease agreement in effect currently for that property to be occupied, and a separate document that's signed by the owners that states that they understand that they're under a Board of Health order to correct violations, to correct housing code violations, that they are in agreement that they shall not rent or lease the property until such time as they request, receive a reinspection prior to any leasing or rental, so that we can so it can be demonstrated that all violations have been corrected. And then at that point, the board would be perfectly happy to have the property rented. So to me, in a way, this is like, what if I bought a house that was unoccupied and it was a mess and there was a gazillion things wrong with it, and I knew that it didn't meet code? I'd have all the time in the world to fix it before I decided to do anything with it, because nobody's inspected it. There's nobody living there. So, I mean, I think it would be reasonable for us to provide the owners with some leeway in terms of timing if we have something signed and in writing that demonstrates that there's no lease agreement, that the tenant has terminated the lease, and that there will be no attempts by the owners to occupy the property, by having anybody live there until it's re-inspected. And to Jim's point, we would probably ask the owners to check in at every Board of Health meeting, just to give us an update of where things are. Something like that might be reasonable. Jim, is that resonating with where you're coming from?
Sure, and the check-in, could that be something as simple as an email to the board saying,
Yeah.
at this point in time, we have no intentions to occupy the dwelling, and at some point in time, if their plans are as they're looking at maybe raising it and rebuilding it, once there's a demo permit, you could probably drop that requirement too, and because there won't be a dwelling there anymore.
Right, and we don't expect necessarily to have updates on dealing with the violations if in fact they're going to make a decision in a month to raise the property anyway. There's no reason to require that or accept that.
I think that's reasonable.
Okay. Let me ask Melinda and Sheila. Melinda, Sheila, do you folks have any questions or comments about the discussion before we sort of make a decision with the owners and their attorney about how to proceed? Sheila, go ahead.
Hey, actually, I do have a question for Jim, and it's really a question of clarification.
Sure.
If the mold issue was that serious, why wouldn't then the property be under a condemnation order?
So, and we have this discussion with people all the time about mold. The housing code, well, let me back up a little bit more. There's no real standards for mold. Much like a drinking water standard, there's no standard that says X amount of spores exceeds a standard that's unsafe for people. Unfortunately, people are affected by mold in different ways. Some people aren't affected at all. And we don't, the housing code doesn't even require us to do mold testing as part of the housing code inspection. We can certainly accept reports, but that's only one piece of information. The housing code addresses mold by way of moisture. Without moisture, you're not going to get mold growth. And so when we do inspections, what we're looking for are defects in the property that would lead to water damage, that would lead to mold. And I think when I did the inspections, given inside the building where I saw, and it wasn't even a lot of mold, I'm sure there was mold in there, and maybe part of that was when they tore it out. But you could see where water, probably from the roof flashing, was getting into that bathroom area and causing an issue.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I don't have anything. Thank you.
Okay. All right. I don't think we. Sorry.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, I just add two things, and we have no objection to anything the board has mentioned so far, or Jim. I would just like to add that the order be clarified as to the freestanding cottage on the property. The address also includes the petitioner's house, the appellate's house that they live in. So I just want to be sure when you say 182 Fort Pond Inn Road, it's just for the cottage.
I think
And
that.
Sorry.
No, I was gonna say, I think that's more of our Mr. Chair, I think that's more of our system at the office for doing that. So I can certainly put a letter atop of that, just clarifying it's for the cottage at 182.
Thank you. And the other thing is, I heard Mr. Gariffi say it, but I hope that your order will include that an option would be to demolish the house and take out a demolition permit.
I think that's up to the owners to do. I think that's just one of those options as the board was looking at what to do with the property. They're certainly not going to impart a decision of what you do with the property. If you're going to fix it, it needs to go a certain way. And I think if I heard the chair right, check-ins and a letter from the owner. If it's going to be demoed, my thought is as soon as the demo permit's pulled and the cottage is down, I think the housing order would be vacated at that point just because the structure doesn't exist anymore.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, I think the board's point of view is as long as the violations are fixed either by fixing them or by demolishing and rebuilding the house, we don't really care. We just want to make sure that it's fixed and that nobody lives there until it is fixed or rebuilt. So if we could maybe make a modification to the order, Jim, so that it's clear that we're talking about the cottage, not the owner's residence, and maybe make a note in there that states that the inspector and the Board of Health understands that the owners are potentially considering demolition and rebuilding, and that should that decision be reached, that they will notify us and then keep us posted. And at such time when the property literally is, if it is decided and is literally demolished, that they let us know, and then we can basically vacate the order and get this off of our agenda. Does all that work for the attorney and the owners?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes, thank you very much, board, for your time.
All right, I think we're all set. Jim, did you have any final, you want to close out this one? You're on mute, Jim.
I guess the only thing I would say is when might we expect, because I look at it still as an open order until we get some verification on tenancy.
Yeah, so that would be the first thing is to get a signed either legal document or a notarized document that makes us entirely comfortable that there's been that the lease has been vacated, there is no lease, there's going to be no lease or rental agreement on the property until such time as that the order has been satisfied, violations have been repaired, or the property has been raised.
Mr. Chair, I'll prepare that Monday if the snow cyclone in Seattle doesn't keep me here a little longer.
I think if we can get that within the next week, we'd be satisfied. Is that fair enough, Jim?
I think so.
Okay. All right. Unless there's any other further discussion, I think we're all set with 182 Fort Pond Inn Road.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Okay, goodbye.
Bye. All righty. Well, I think we're back to our discussion items, starting with 132 Kilbourne Road. There's quite a long history to this property. I'm not going to go through all of it because I'm not sure that the 198-page document that would be required to talk about all the issues that have come up with this property would be something I could recite. So why don't we just talk about the current situation where I know there's been an administrative search warrant, and I think there was a process in place to get those papers and to get them served. Is that right?
If I could provide you an update, we met with on behalf of the board. A letter was sent to the owner requesting an inspection. The owner declined. The board wanted to proceed with an administrative search warrant. I went to the Clinton courthouse, which is where I typically would start. They don't do them there. I have to go to the Worcester Housing Court. I just need to find time to actually go there to be able to get the administrative search warrant. So that hasn't been done yet, just because I haven't had a block of time to run into Worcester, work with the clerk magistrate to get that administrative search warrant. So that is still in the works. It just has not been done yet.
Okay, fair enough. Certainly we understand. Well, we don't understand, but we can barely appreciate the level of activity that the Neshoba Associated Boards of Health have been under lately, with being down a somewhat important individual like Bill Brookings. So why don't you just keep us? You can just keep us appraised, Jim. Informally through emails to Samantha and I, and we'll just keep it on the agenda until such time as there's news that's worth meeting about.
Sure. So my goal would be is to get the administrative search warrant, work with, I guess, the commissioner to execute that warrant and do the inspection.
Right. So the process would be getting the warrant,
Yep.
working with Everett Moody to execute it, do the inspection, have findings, write an order to correct, assuming that there are any violations, which sounds likely from what we've heard, and then proceed as we would normally proceed.
Correct.
Very good. All right. Questions, comments from Melinda or Sheila on this one? See heads shaking no.
Nope.
Okay. All righty. 89 Narrow Lane, Unit 1, work to be completed by the 27th of November, based on a special hearing that we had on the 6th. I guess this is just on the agenda as a continuance from the prior meeting, since and I guess we want to make sure that there's going to be a reinspection at that point, or closely proximal to that date, so that we know that they've corrected those violations. So at the last meeting, we had some discussions back and forth with the owners, who wanted more time than the board was willing to give them to make corrections. So they're basically responsible to make those corrections by the 27th. We just need to be able to get there and verify that they've made them.
I'll set up a follow-up inspection as we get closer to that date.
Okay. All right. Fantastic. Mr. Streeter has joined us. Frank, did you come to the board with a specific agenda item in mind, or you just got nothing else to do better than to listen to the Board of Health's deliberations?
Well, without answering the second part of your question, which may or may not be true on a rainy day such as this,
Right.
I'm working at my desk and I happened to notice that you had Zero Hilltop on your agenda. So I figured I would just check in and listen to what you all had to say. But
Well,
no, I don't have anything
okay.
beyond that. You guys are just such compelling must-see TV.
Now, I know that's the general opinion across town, that this is a pretty hot seat to get into a Board of Health hearing. So we did talk about Zero Hilltop. Basically, to make a somewhat long story short, because we've already addressed that issue, but in deference to you being here to hear about it, we decided that we really really needed to get back to the planning board, building commissioner, to make sure that the few things that Lancaster Board of Health actually has been or could be involved in at this point, which had to do with soil testing, maybe one or two other things, that they're aware of that, but really the whole issue of the tie into sewer, and in particular the water source, is something that the developer and developer's attorney were telling us that they're still in the process of trying to work out. And, really our position is, until that's worked out, until we know and we have plans for proposed, for what the tie-in's going to be, either to sewer, or whether there's going to be any septic systems for any of the 18 units, how the water is going to be connected, where it's going to be connected from, or are wells going to be drilled. We really have nothing else to really say until we get more information, or until things move a little bit further along in the process.
Okay, well, so let me give you a brief update based on Tuesday's meeting. They have continually planned to put in sewer based on the availability of credits. It's an 18-unit subdivision. They apparently are queued up for 15 credits already and believe they're going to be able to get the other 3. They have also, for the first time, finally agreed that they will get their water from the hydrant at the intersection of George Hill Road and Hilltop if it is technically feasible. If it's not technically feasible, they're going back to wells, and that will emphatically end up in your lap.
Right.
But my assumption is that unless there's a wormhole underneath Hilltop Road somewhere, that it's going to be technically feasible to run a water line along Hilltop. So at that point, town water, town sewer, and you guys are off the hook, at least mostly. If that changes, either Brian or I will reach right out to you, but they really, really want to get an approval with some conditions. So now they're willing to put in town water, which was the biggest argument we're having. It appears that most of the rest of the stuff should be pretty straightforward. I mean, with water and sewer.
Okay.
So fingers crossed. Nothing is done until they throw the switch.
I hear you.
Not that I'm skeptical or anything.
No, why would you question whether something was going to work out or not?
It's
right.
worked out fine for hundreds of years, right? So on that happy note, that was all I was here for.
Okay.
Thank you guys very much. Best of luck with your administrative search warrants and all the rest of the violations that I'm glad I have nothing to do with. So take care, guys. Really appreciate all your hard work.
Same to you, Frank. Take care. Enjoy the rest of this rainy, cold fall day.
Oh, I'm thrilled. I have rain sensitive skylights that I haven't been able to test for 2 months. It was only today I
Okay.
found out one of them doesn't work right.
All right. Thanks for
Take
coming.
care.
Appreciate the
Thanks so
info.
much.
All right. So I think we just cover 89 Narrow Lane Unit 1. We're waiting Jim will arrange or Bill will arrange for reinspection sometime after the 27th, but reasonably proximal to it. And the next item after that is 89 Narrow Lane Unit 3, which now we have an additional complaint of mold and mildew from that tenant. I believe that you did do an inspection there as well, Jim, and can you make a comment on that unit?
Sure. So again, got a complaint to the office for mold. Went out to the unit. It is not obvious that there's a mold issue there. What you have is kind of this kind of yellow stuff coming down the walls. I'm not even sure it's active, but it was of concern to the occupant. So again, as required, I did offered a full inspection, did a full inspection for the person, ended up with a list of violations. Again, a 24-hour one, the smoke detectors both in the unit and going up the hallway. The occupant tells me those have been fixed, so that part of it's done. I had some other questions about egress. There's a weird little small door that goes out the back of the kitchen. You have to kind of duck just a little bit. So I have that question out to the building commissioner for a resolution. The person has the order in hand. I will give her a call and find out what the progress she's making on the report.
Okay.
Jim, do you have a copy of the report? Because we haven't gotten one yet.
Okay, it's probably in the envelope of things to come over, so I'll send that over.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Thank you for that one, Jim. Much appreciated. We already have done D 70 McGovern. We've done E 180 194 Grant, and we've done F 0 Hilltop.
Could I provide you with a little bit of update on 70? I wasn't here, unfortunately, but maybe Bill covered it, but.
Sure, go ahead.
So I've been trying to get out there at different times to witness what it is the complainant was witnessing. And so I've been out probably at some total of 5 times, just different times. He mentioned the complainant, a time frame in which lots of people come. I tried to see it that I noticed on the agenda, those couple of appointments. I did not see the issue. I happened to be coming home from a Board of Health meeting, I think it was last Tuesday night, and was at the field late. And I think of the times I've been there, I kind of get a sense now when the concern is happening. It seems like when lots of people are leaving. So I happened to get there near the end of games and the parking lot was emptying. And so that constant traffic going down the parking lot certainly causes the pictures that the complainant showed you. So I spoke briefly with Bill. And I think he's going to talk to the property owner. There's a private person who owns the road about addressing that road.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, we had that discussion, and
Okay.
Elias, the complainant, was satisfied with our the plan that Bill outlined to speak to the road owner, try to make some suggestions, try to avoid issuing an order and a DEP violation, just try to get it resolved to reasonable satisfaction and reasonably quickly, because the complainant is concerned about the impact of the dust on the young folks that are being shuttled in and out of that place. So we reassured him that we were also as concerned and that we would move forward and all that. So I think we're all set there. So thank you for that background. Much appreciated.
No problem.
Other than the Board of Health inventory, I don't think, we do. Do we have an issue with this? This is a question really for Samantha and either Bill or Jim, if you've heard about this. There's some report of what's been described to me as a hand dug or a hand drilled well at 834 and or 864 Lunenburg Road that has run dry, and the occupants of the property have been getting help from the town with water being carted back and forth, and there's some sense of whether or not the town in the person of fire department might offer some assistance in terms of providing some water to one of those wells. I don't know if this has been an official complaint or an official problem, or if this is just some discussion that's been going on at the Lancaster Community Center, but I thought before I gave you guys a chance to leave the meeting and get back to your business, I'd mention it and see if you're aware of it.
So I can provide an update on that, Jeff.
I say I can too, but you can go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, well driller came in let's see, what's today, Thursday, Tuesday, mentioning that the persons were out of water and looking for an emergency well permit. So we gave him a copy of the plan. He gave me where the location he wanted to drill the well was. It met your regulations. I've issued a permit for that drilling for that well.
Great. Fab, go ahead, Samantha.
So I did talk to Everett on Tuesday about this. They were gonna send a truck up to make sure that the well didn't collapse. He let me know at that time that 834 is getting water from 860. They're all set for right now, and there was an emergency management meeting on Wednesday afternoon about the drought and more resources statewide coming out. So Everett was going to update us if anything came from that.
Okay. So maybe, is there a way, Samantha, you could connect with him, make sure that he knows what the essence of what Jim just reported about the
I can,
emergency?
yep.
Okay. So if we can connect all that stuff together, then sounds like that everything is on the pathway to resolution and may not involve the Board of Health any further.
I think they were trying to drill the well this week.
Yeah. Okay. All right, great. Yeah, and we've issued emergency well permits before without, taking a lot of time or unnecessarily deliberating. Get people served with water as quickly as possible. All right. Other than the Board of Health inventory, which we don't need either Bill or Jim for, was there anything else, Samantha, that we think we have before I let those fellows go about their merry way?
Not on my end. No, I think we're all set.
All right. Actually, before you guys go, I neglected to do this at the beginning of the meeting, and my apologies, Lori. I'm very sorry. I wanted to introduce you at the beginning of the meeting, and I failed to. So I want to make sure everybody meets Lori Giovino, who is now been hired to be I think the title is administrative assistant. Is that right?
Yes, correct.
For the town of Lancaster inside the Department of Health and Human Services. And Lori, among her responsibilities, is going to be taking over supporting the Board of Health and will replace Samantha in that role. Actually, is in the process of replacing Samantha even as we speak. Samantha will be moving on to devoting more of her time to the Recreation Department. And I always thought the Board of Health was recreation, but I guess not. No, it's been anything but fun and recreation here for quite a while. So I'm very, very happy to have Lori with us. Delighted for her to be here. She and Samantha are working together to sort of transition process and procedure. Samantha, Lori, and I, the three of us, will be meeting on, I think, at least 2 occasions. For me to make sure she knows, what an onerous task it's going to be working with the chair of the Board of Health and be able to know what sort of the expectations are and all that kind of stuff. So we'll all be working together to move that forward. And I think, Samantha, you're going to be here for the next Board of Health meeting as a shadow for Lori. So Lori's kind of shadowing Samantha. Then at the next meeting, Samantha will shadow Lori. And then Lori will be taking on support role. Correct?
Yep, that's correct. And I'm not going anywhere, so Lori knows and all of you know that, you know, if things come up, I am more than willing to help with any of it.
And that's appreciated. And I'll probably say it again, but I want to say it now, just because I have the time and I'm thinking of it. Samantha, you've been just an amazing resource to the Board of Health since you started. Really embraced, like, you know, what can I do to make things work smarter, work better, work more efficiently, make sure that we don't lose track of things. We have this great log now of all the important events that the Board of Health does. Lots of improvements to the Board of Health functioning, with Samantha being our support person, plus being a real pleasure to work with in general. So, you know, you've been a wonderful help, Samantha. I think you know that, but I wanted to say it publicly and for the record.
Jeff, I would like to say the absolute same. Sam's been a pleasure to work with and certainly stays on top of everything.
For sure. All right. Well, Bill and Jim, if you guys want to take off, the only thing I want to do is I want to talk about our inventory, which I don't need you for. I also want to talk to people about what we're going to do about the hearing for Cumberland Farms tobacco, which I don't really need you guys here for either. So, and Jim, thank you so much for all the support you've been while Bill's been down for the count. Much appreciated. You know, I haven't been around either. And you know, the depth and breadth of our resources at Neshoba is astounding. So much appreciated.
Glad I could help. Thanks.
All right. See you guys.
Take care.
All right. Take it easy.
All right. I'm gradually diminishing the attendance at this meeting little by little. I'm going to boot myself out next, you know. No. So let's let's just make sure that we're okay with the Board of Health inventory stuff. So I think we can get this off the agenda. We just needed to make sure that we purchased the replacement items. We replaced those replacement items in the right places. I do, in terms of dotting I's and crossing T's, want to make sure that we have an updated inventory list for all 3 locations that where we're storing equipment or supplies, that all of us have a copy of that list electronically, and that a physical hard copy of each of the 3 locations is placed at each of the 3 locations. So at each location, there should be a record of the inventory at all 3 locations. So I should be able to go to the town hall, to the community center, or to the trailer and find a current inventory of everything that's in all 3 locations. And as long as all that's true, or if it becomes true, then we don't have to worry about the inventory for another year.
So the inventories are updated. They have not been posted. I can go around and do that. I have to show Lori each of the places anyway.
Yeah.
And then just one update on that. So I know in the LCC, we had the COVID tests on there. At this point, we have gotten through all of the tests that expired in November, and we're on to the cases for December. And I think we only have 3 left.
Okay.
So that number will
Are you asking me to
kind of be
take that off?
shifty, just knowing that it's kind of, they're coming and they're there and then they're going out.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. In terms of the Cumberland Farms tobacco appeal issues, what do you think you want to do? I mean, I'm kind of betwixt between, you know, to be honest with you, my tendency would be to want to set up a special hearing, a special date, just to get it over and done with, and for it to not take up what would probably be, you know, an entire meeting in December, because I think it could go an hour or so. But if people are feeling burnt out about meetings, if the holidays are feeling onerous, with Thanksgiving and Christmas and other holidays coming up, I could be persuaded to wait until our meeting in December. I was thinking if we could meet on the 12th, set up and I'm just throwing this out there, and I'm happy for people to say, nah, let's just wait until our next meeting. When is the next meeting? Is the next meeting?
19th.
It's the
We're
19th, huh?
proposing it for the 19th.
Yeah, I propose to keep it for the 19th.
Technically, it should be the 26th, but I thought that was a little too close to the holiday.
Appreciate that.
Well, if that's going to be the case, if we're going to meet on the 19th, why don't we just include the hearing at that date rather than meet on the 12th and the 19th?
I agree.
So there's no time frame that the hearing has to be held within? I mean, we waived that though, so
We waive that.
I guess, yeah. All right.
Or they did.
Right. So we don't have to worry about that. So all of us present are able to meet on the 19th at 9:30 via Zoom.
Yes, sir.
All right. So why don't we go ahead and set that up? We can start an agenda for that meeting. And also, why don't we do whatever is necessary to notify in writing.
Yes.
And email is fine. I don't need certified return receipt
Yeah.
requested, but emails to everybody that the Cumberland Farms hearing, and by everybody I mean everybody that was here this morning. So that includes the two people from tobacco control. It includes the one or two people from the state, Cheryl Sparrow. It includes the town attorneys. It includes the gentleman from Cumberland who came, and then he would communicate that to the other people. So all those folks need to know we are going to have the hearings on the three violations that occurred in the two facilities on the 19th, that it's going to be scheduled for 9:30 a.m. and that when the agenda is posted and we have a link to the Zoom, that you will send out a follow-up email saying, just confirming that we are having the hearing on the 19th. Here is the link to the Zoom meeting. So we're very clear and careful about that. Go ahead, Samantha.
Do you want me to just check with town council first to make sure they're available that day before offering it to everyone else?
No, just schedule it. There's at least 3 or 4 of them in that office. One of them should be able to attend.
You got it. I will send that out once we get off the meeting.
Yeah. I mean, if we get something back from the attorney saying, we're all at a conference in Florida, we can't, or something like that, then, after I wonder why I wasn't invited, I'll make a decision to change the date.
Perfect.
Anything else that we need to talk about? Any minutes approval? We have minutes to approve for October 24 and November 6 that have already been reviewed. Can we have a motion to approve those minutes?
Give me the date again. Sorry.
Yeah.
October 24th and November 6th.
And November 6th, 26th?
Nope, just November 6th.
November 6th. That was the special hearing.
Yes.
Okay. So I will make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from the Board of Health meeting held on October 24th, 2024. In addition, should I make 2 separate motions?
No, one motion, 2
Okay,
days.
I'm sorry. I'll start over. I would like to make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from the Board of Health meeting held on October 24th, 2024, in addition to the meeting minutes held for the special hearing held on November 6th, 2024.
I'll
Is there a second? All
I'll
right, all in
second.
favor? Sheila Millette,
Aye.
Melinda Apgar,
Aye.
Jeff Pastor, aye. Motion carries. Minutes are approved. We've already agreed to meet again on December 19th. And okay, I think we're all good. Thanks, everybody. I'm gonna ask for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting, the Lancaster Board of Health meeting held on November 21st, 2024 at 11:24 a.m.
And I will second that.
All right. All in favor, Jeff Pastor, aye. Belinda,
Aye.
Sheila.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Samantha. Thank you, Lori.